Well, President Trump just spoke from the Oval Office about those intense protests in L.A. that have raged on for now 5 straight days. I'm Scripps News' Andrew Rafferty, and this is On the Scene. One of the big topics in the Oval Office was his decision to deploy thousands of National Guardsmen and women and Marines to Los Angeles amid those anti-ICE protests. Scripps News Group's Haley Bull is live for us at the White House. And Haley, what do we learn from the president moments ago?
Yeah, Andrew, President Donald Trump is maintaining that his administration's actions have served as the buffer from destruction in Los Angeles. The administration has invoked thousands of National Guard members and activated Marines in response to the protests in L.A. And Trump says they'll leave only once they feel that there is no danger. But thus far, the administration has not used the Insurrection Act to activate these service members, which is an authority permitting a military deployment within the country in response to an insurrection. The president in the Oval Office notably saying if there were an insurrection, he would invoke it, saying, quote, "We'll see," and that there were certain areas within the city, quote, "you could have called an insurrection." Now, the president also revealing he spoke to California's Governor Gavin Newsom for a second time a day ago. He described to tell him he must do a better job. And he also gave some insight into factors he is considering throughout this, as he has consistently pointed to Minneapolis and sharing a view that decisions from the government need to be made faster, and seeing the images coming out of Los Angeles, particularly that he views as dangerous to law enforcement. Now, Democrats and state leaders in California have argued that the federal response was political, without merit, without state support, and without legality. The state now suing the Trump administration over it. But politically, for this administration, Andrew, they believe they are on the right side here. A White House official telling us that they believe Democrats do not have a new ideology. They are having one that they believe Americans rejected with Trump's election victory in November. Of course, these comments are coming as the president heads to Fort Bragg this afternoon to give a speech. Officials say will honor the Army's, quote, honor, courage, and heroism. And that comes ahead of the much anticipated military parade this weekend that President Trump has been touting. Trump notably warning that any protests on Saturday, quote, will be met with very big force. Andrew?
All right, Scripps News White House correspondent Haley Bull live for us at the White House. Haley, we will be checking back in with you throughout the day. And it has now been about 24 hours since California announced the state was suing the Trump administration for deploying those National Guards troops to Los Angeles over the weekend, a move the governor called unlawful. Scripps News legal affairs correspondent Abijoy Burnett has been taking a closer look at this lawsuit. Now, Abijoy, why does the governor believe a court will reject the Trump administration's move to send in the National Guard?
Point blank here, Andrew, the Attorney General and Governor of California believe the administration is breaking the law. The Attorney General and Governor said that there is no legal authority for the Trump administration to send in the National Guard to Los Angeles. This is something that happened a few days ago, and we now know that there are additional military members who are being sent into California. We've seen those images. But according to this lawsuit, they believe that this is something that is highly unusual. Usually we have the governors as the ones who are giving the president kind of the go-ahead to send in the National Guard. And this lawsuit points to the fact that this sort of thing only happens in dire circumstances. We are able to take a look back into history. And the last time where a president actually sent in the National Guard without the authorization of a state's governor was back in the 1960s during the Civil Rights Movement. And this is when President Lyndon Johnson sent in the National Guard to help protect people who were marching during the Civil Rights Movement. And this is something that was mentioned in that lawsuit. It was a very brief lawsuit, just about 22 pages. There are thoughts here that this is something that will be expanded, but it was rapidly filed yesterday. And I want to pull something up on the screen for you so you can get an idea of why both the Attorney General and the Governor of California believe that this is really unprecedented. Here's what a portion of the lawsuit said. They said the authority authority to use the military domestically for civil law enforcement is reserved for dire, narrow circumstances, none of which is present here. Defendants have overstepped the bounds of law and are intent on going as far as they can to use the military in unprecedented, unlawful ways. Now, even though California officials have said that things were under control for a very long time early on when we started to see these protests pop up a few days ago, the president, along with administration officials, are saying that is not the case. We just heard from Haley Bull at the White House, and then we just saw the president not too long ago where he has pointed to some of those images that we have seen on the screen. For example, cars being burned in portions of Los Angeles. And then also, just not too long ago, the president referred to some of the people there in Los Angeles as, quote, insurrectionists. He also said they are paid agitators. So he firmly believes that the Trump administration has the authority to send in the National Guard, and we now know that Marines will also be sent in. Take a listen to what President Trump said not too long ago.
If we didn't send out the National Guard, and last time we gave them a little additional help, you would have, Los Angeles would be burning right now.
Now, the president was also asked if this is something that we could see happen in other jurisdictions across the country, and he answered yes. He pointed back to what we saw in 2020 during the protests during some of those protests, and he believes that governors should have asked for help more quickly. So when he was asked today if this is something where the National Guard is deployed without the consent of local and state leaders, could we see this in other jurisdictions? He said yes. That is something that could happen. And we do know that there are liberal leaders across the country who have expressed concern about this. They're in Los Angeles. The mayor there, Karen Bass, she believes her city is being used as a test case here where the administration is coming in incorrectly and taking over control. Now, in less than 30 minutes, right around 1:30, we are anticipating a press conference from the Attorney General in Connecticut. And this press conference is supposed to talk about what is happening in Los Angeles. So we believe we will see here this particular leader talking possibly about the concern of the overreach, what they believe is an overreach from the federal government, sending in forces without the support and authority of state and local leaders, Andrew.
All right, very different versions between what we're hearing from the White House and out in California. We're going to have a live report from the ground in LA in just a moment. But Scripps News legal affairs correspondent Avajoy Burnett for us, getting us up to speed here in D.C. Avajoy, thank you.